make fun of poor white people because I was once poor. And I know that the only difference between a poor black person and a poor white person is that a poor white person feels like it's not supposed to be happening to them.
You want to talk about white privilege? I was born dirt poor. Roaches in our food, mattresses on the floor, eviction notices taped to the doors, kind of poor. My parents, their side hustle was beating me and my siblings bloody. I missed more meals than I can count. When we did eat, it was ramen, canned foods, or whatever we could steal from the gas station. There were 8 of us kids. Don't come at me like I grew up in some quiet backwoods town either. We weren't hearing deer rifles. We were hearing 9mm and Glocks on a nightly basis. Not because we were hunting, because we were dodging stray bullets in the inner city. I had a baby as a teenager, thought maybe I could break the cycle, went to college, flunked out quick. Life was swinging before I even had a chance to plant my feet. Then the military came knocking, promised me structure, a future, and a way out. What I got? Another flavor of hell. Straight out of basic, they shipped me to Afghanistan. 19 years old. Couldn't buy a beer back home, but I could carry a rifle, kick indoors, and watch friends die in pieces. I came home to a wife who had cheated on me while I deployed, ended in divorce, missed my baby's first steps, first words, first everything. I got the title Dad, but only for 2 days every other week when the courts allowed me. So I drank. I numbed it out. I drowned it in alcohol and women. Hopped from job to job, security, government contracts, even worked with the feds for a minute. But it all fell apart. I ended up homeless, ashamed, alone, and broken. Now, I've been sober for 4 years. Been through more therapy than most folks can stomach. Read hundreds of books. And here's what I figured out. As bad as I have had it, if I was black, I probably wouldn't have survived it. That ain't an opinion, that's truth. Black Americans make up 13% of the population, but 38% of the prison population. 1 in 3 black boys born today, they're expected to end up behind bars. That ain't by accident, that is policy. That's centuries of systemic racism passed off as justice. The 13th Amendment did not abolish slavery, it rebranded it. It says slavery is legal as punishment for a crime. That's why we got corporations making billions off of prison labor while folks inside earn cents an hour if they're lucky. That clause was written to target black Americans, and it's still doing exactly that. Now I run an organization called West Virginia Fights Back. We feed people, we take care of people. No strings, no red tape, no begging for scraps. We take care of our own because the government won't. My dream? A Fights Back chapter in every damn state. Abolish the prison industrial complex. Burn the cage down. Build something real in its place. Fred Hampton said, you can jail a revolutionary, but you cannot jail the revolution. This is not about shame. This is about responsibility. If you've had the privilege of not being targeted by the system, you've got the duty to help tear it down.
In America, there is a misconception about who is on welfare. Now, let me just say this. There is no one program in the United States that constitutes welfare. There are many social programs in the United States that are part of what the United States calls the social safety net, which is really not much of a safety net at all when you consider the meager benefits that people receive. So what I've decided to do is look quickly at the statistics from the last census. Now, this holds true going back, but actually in the last 20 years, it has increased. The number of people receiving public benefits of some sort or another has increased amongst one particular demographic, and that is amongst white people. 20 years ago, 61% of all the people receiving public benefits of some kind in the United States were white people. Today, or as of 2022, or as the last census, 76.2% of all the people receiving some form of public benefit were white people, and the rest were people of color, 13, people of Asian extraction, 6%, give or take, and people of Hispanic, somewhere down in the middle there. So let's just talk about what constitutes public benefits. So I'm going to read this list here, and this is what makes up all of welfare, if you will, in the United States: Medicaid, SNAP, WIC, free or reduced price school meals, SSI, TAANF, energy aid, rental subsidies, unemployment compensation, and assorted other programs. So 40 million people in the United States live in poverty, and that number approximately is the number of people who receive public benefits of some kind. And of course that varies when you include Social Security recipients, Medicare, etc., which is not it's an earned benefit. So I'm going to eliminate that for the moment. So of those people, the number of people receiving public benefits, welfare, if you will, some form of social program, social safety net support, as I said, 76.2% are whites. So I think this is important to remember when people start talking out of their ass.
Hello, brothers and sisters. We are at a point where everything is getting exposed, and the safety nets that white people are in is right now being exposed. Remember when some times back we say that black people usually fought for the affirmative action, black people fought for the welfare of everyone, but them, after fighting for all this, they didn't benefit from this. It only benefited other people. Look at all this welfare, food stamp, everything that the government usually, all these donations that government give, 78% of white people are the benefactors of all these things. While we see black people on the streets marching, wanting these things, but the benefits usually goes to all these people. Today, the growing economic conditions of the United States is exposing everything. And the safety nets that saved, the safety nets that helped these people is crumbling down, and it's exposing everyone. And brothers and sisters, in this video, you are gonna be seeing white people coming out and complaining about not receiving all these things that they were receiving because the life is really hard for everyone. But see, when usually we see black people on the street, they're the ones who are usually fighting for this. They are usually people who are going out on the street asking for this, for the education, for all these things. And people take black people for granted for doing all these things. But at the end of the day, they are the ones that ensure that all these things are in place. It really makes sense when a person complains about the living standard because they don't expect this to happen to them. What Trump just did, he exposed all white people. And he literally, maybe didn't say it verbally, but what he did is okay, folks, you have been having fun, get out. And he opened the vault, and everyone is seeing the truth. Because initially we were not seeing white people complaining, but deep down they were benefiting from all these things. Well, they made it look like black people are the ones who are suffering. They made it look like black people are the ones who are fighting for the affirmative action. Black people are those people who are out there calling out this administration for doing this and that. But because of greed, they kept quiet. But right now it reached on their doorsteps and everyone is getting exposed. So buckle up for this video. I'm just asking you, if you're watching me for the first time, I'm just asking you, it is a simple plea. Please subscribe to my channel. I'll be really grateful. And for those who are supporting me through Smart Thanks, through my Cash App, through donations, man, I'm really grateful for the support. So let's watch the video. I'll be back and then I'll be sharing my thoughts at the end of it all.
So first, the face of poverty in reality looks very different than some people's perception.
Well, let me put a finer point on it. They think poverty is black and Latino and Hispanic people in this country, but poverty also includes a lot of white people in America.
So I posted about white folks on food stamps, and one thing I kept seeing was that welfare was created for white people. I knew that it was created during the New Deal, so I did some more research because I didn't really know the whole story, and I thank you guys for responding and helping me learn stuff. So during the Great Depression is when we saw the beginning of things like Social Security, unemployment insurance. But here's the kicker. When Franklin Roosevelt built those programs, he had to make deals with Southern Democrats in Congress, the same folks who were big fans of Jim Crow, to get the support of these racist white Southern politicians. The programs were designed to exclude farm workers, domestic workers, jobs held overwhelmingly by Black, Latino, and Indigenous people. So right from the start, Black and brown families were pushed out of benefits so that white people could get them. Then we move forward to the 1960s, and there's this war on poverty. It finally opened up welfare programs more broadly, and that's when food stamps became permanent. Well, permanent, we don't know what Trump's going to do to them, but they lasted a long time. And guess what? The minute more Black and brown families started accessing this help, the politics shifted. Welfare got a new image and a new target. By the 1980s and 90s, with Ronald Reagan and his gang, they pushed the welfare queen myth. That's a racist dog whistle meant to turn public opinion against safety nets by blaming Black women for poverty that white policies created. That's the truth, you guys. So yes, welfare was built for white people, and when others finally got in the door, they tried to burn the house down. If you want to blame the right people, you got to get curious.
Can we talk about how miserable white people are for a second? Like, you know that white people are miserable, right? Like, have you ever looked a white person in the eye, even if they're like a big mental health person? You just look deep down and you're like, brother, you are not happy at all. And truly, it breaks my heart. But one reason, I think, one of the main reasons that a lot of white people, a lot of us are really unhappy and miserable is because we lack internal congruence. Now, congruence is a concept we learned early in grad school to help people heal. And congruence is basically internal alignment. Values and actions are on the same page, right? Like, we accept every part of ourselves. We feel peace, security in who we are, congruence. And no matter how hard you try, you can never find internal congruence if you're not congruent with the world around you. If you're not understanding what's real and seeing reality and affirming what's true. So like white people who deny patriarchy and capitalism's negative effect and oppression of the world and genocide that's happening around the world, like that's incongruent with reality. That is going to have an effect on us internally. Because to deny what's happening in real time, we have to deny certain parts of us, certain emotions, certain thoughts that come up. And the more we run for that, the more incongruent and separate we feel, the more dissonance that comes, the more miserable we are. And a lot of times we're not actually dealing with our own pain and our own reality because we're all suffering under capitalism and white supremacy. Like, it affects us different ways in intersectionality, but like it affects us white people too. You don't think a stormtrooper in the fucking Star Wars movies hates his life? You don't think he hates being bossed around all the time? You don't think poor white people living in the Empire, like in a city walls, like in a Game of Thrones, like you don't think that they're miserable under it, even though they're not miserable the most? To be congruent inside, to not be miserable anymore, it takes accepting the realities of the world, seeing how those toxic systems affect us, and then moving to actually be congruent. Because deep down, humanity has goodness at its center. So yeah, white people, we're miserable because we're not congruent, because we're denying the realities of the world, and thus denying ourselves.
Welfare is for citizens, and citizens have always been white. Between 1775 and 1855, the United States government issued over 500,000 land bounty grants. These grants went to people who served in the military. But here's the thing, they were transferable. So you could sell them, and that's what soldiers did. White soldiers, because even though there were black soldiers serving in every war since the Revolutionary War, only white soldiers were eligible for land bounty grants. You can't own property if you are property. Ugh. So the pale privates and Caucasian colonels were eligible to get these land bounty grants, and they would get them from the government, and then they would sell them to somebody else. Oh, did I forget to mention these were big-ass plots? So they could definitely sell like 80 acres and live on the other 20. Or 60 acres and live on the other 40. Never. Welfare is for y'all. It's always been for y'all. Because
Hey TikTok, I'm just on here wondering if anybody's feeling the same way I'm feeling. I'm from Illinois, and I feel like the gas prices and the electric bills and the prices of food is just so overwhelming anymore. Like, I'm wondering if anybody else is feeling like they're drowning and they can't get out. I work overtime and I cannot get above water. I mean, I literally have no gas for next week. It was either that or get a few groceries to get by. I hit my local food pantries. I'm just wondering if anybody else feels like they're drowning. But anyway, I hope everybody has a great day.
Seeing poor white men is like seeing Jamaicans losing in a sprint. This game was designed for you to win.
This is the first month I won't be able to afford rent. I'm not a rich person. I don't have a lot of stuff. I have basic household necessities, a couch, a bed, washer, a dryer. That's about it. A car. I don't have a lot of lavish things. I don't go on vacations, and I don't spend a lot. Rent's increased from $1,300 to $1,800. The food prices are too high. I've cut back on eating because I literally cannot afford food. I've cut back on my favorite snacks, cat food, treats. I'm exhausted all the time from being overworked and underpaid. You don't catch a break when you grow up poor. I don't need much to be happy. I just want to be able to live comfortable. I just really need to catch a break right now. I'm trying so hard and I feel like I'm not doing enough. I don't have family. I don't have anything to fall back on.
I'm an American. I pay $1,600 for a flat that has no bedroom. That's 2/3 of my income. I'm an American. I work 50 hours a week. I don't have health insurance. I'm an American. I couldn't afford to have a child even if I wanted to. I'm $7,000 in debt. I'm an American. My health is declining because I can't afford Whole Foods because that's too expensive for my life. I am very overqualified for my job, but no one else is hiring. I'm an American. I make my boss hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, while I can barely keep myself alive. I'm an American. I have never been out of the States. I have never been on a vacation. I'm an American. I make $20-some an hour. A livable wage here is like 30-some. Yet I don't qualify for government assistance whatsoever. On the days I don't work, I'm so tired I just sleep all day. I'm an American. My electric bill is so expensive I sit outside in the heat because I can't afford to turn the AC on in the damn house. I'm an American, and I fear I'm just an average American. I'm living the American dream.
Everybody keeps saying it's going to get better. How is it going to get better? Our economy is so fucked that I work a full-time job. I make $21 an hour working 40 hours a week. I have no extra expenses, no bills out of my living. I have one credit card that's maxed because I've lived off of it, but other than that, I don't have cable. I haven't had cable in 10 years. We have cell phones, but, you know, that's required to live on. But other than that, nothing extra. On paper, my bills are $2,701. My income is $2,710. Do the math. $9 a month before I pay for food, gas, car repairs, any entertainment. There's no money for that. And my car is dying. It's paid for, so I don't have car payments now that I'm going to replace. And I don't know how to do that on $9 a month. $9 to feed myself, $9 to buy a car, $9 for insurance. Yeah. So at the end of the day, this is me because I worked 8.5 hours a day, knowing that it's not enough, that it won't be enough. Fuck you, Ontario. I'm absolutely heartbroken. Someone's jumped over in the night and put salt all over the land. That means everything I've planted won't grow. And I can't replant on it because it won't grow. So all the hours and hours and hours of work that we've put in is now dead. And they've done it everywhere. How could you do that? Literally. I hope it makes you happy. I really do. Top person. But you know what? You won't stop me, because I'll just pick it all up and I'll carry on. Okay, I can't plant in this section, but I'll carry on. You won't stop me whatsoever. Why, oh why do poor white people vote against themselves time and time again? They vote for Trump and the other MAGA politicians only to have every promise broken, prices go up, social supports evaporate. Here's why. First, remember what I talked about recently, the psychological wage of whiteness. That term was coined by W.E. Du Bois to describe poor white folks being paid with social status rather than decent living conditions. They're convinced by the elites that they're better than black folks, better than immigrants, Latinos, LGBTQ folks. They're convinced that being white puts them in the same league as the elites. Of course, the elites know otherwise, but the poor whites buy it because they're grasping at straws. Second, they are convinced that the people they're supposedly better than are the big threat in their lives. Not the rich, not the corporations or the politicians, but immigrants, black folks, welfare queens, LGBTQ, criminals, you know, the usual scapegoats. Third, the elites promise protection to poor white folks. A politician comes along and says, I'll keep those people in their place, or I'll kick them out, or I'll lock them up. Or, more politely, I'll defend your values. They don't say, I'll make your life better. Well, they say it, they just don't mean it. They'll say, I'll make sure they don't get ahead of you. Fourth, they vote for the punishment, not the policy. When a law gets passed that slashes public housing or school funding or food aid, they think, good, that'll stop those lazy freeloaders. And they do some mental gymnastics that make them believe it's worth losing those things for their own families in order to see those problematic black people and immigrants and so forth being punished. It gets to a point where just seeing those guys being punished is reward enough, which is pretty sick, but that's how behavior works. Their housing, schools, and groceries are on the chopping block too, but they blame that on Biden. Always a scapegoat. They get hit by the same policies they were told would punish the others. And they blame the wrong people. The system fails them, but they've been trained to blame the scapegoats, not the cause, which is the rich people, the people they voted for. So they think the problem is still those people, not the fact that they were personally manipulated by the people they voted for. They're basically saying, I'll take the hit as long as you don't help them, or worse, as long as you hurt them. That is the psychological wage Du Bois was talking about, the trade-off between material security for racial status. And that's a crying shame, folks. One share, like, save, and comment shows that you care about white people taking responsibility for racism in America. This work is important to me, and I want to keep doing it. If you want to support me, consider a donation of any size to coffee.com/Kelly Snyder. And yeah, spelling is important. Get curious.
You know, it's easy for you to call people out that they need to go get a job, that they need to stop complaining about racism. They should find a life or get a job instead of coming and complaining. Yes, it's true to advise a person to do that, but at the expense that you are downlooking the struggles that a person goes, because you have a system that protects you. You have a system that is white privilege. I've heard majority of people talk about white privilege. Yes, indeed, white privilege was there. But the white privilege that was there is getting shaken. And the white privilege is getting shaken by Mr. Donald Trump. Because for him, he doesn't care about your white privilege. All he cares for his oligarchs. He cares for the people that will bring money on their pocket. For Mr. Donald Trump, it has always been a one-man circus. It's not about you as a white person or what you think or how you feel with your conservatism. You get to understand that. And all these sufferings that are going around, it's because you people decided that you are not going to be speaking about these things. And at least the looming problem knocked on your door. That's when you knew that this is going down. And what just happened in American history just exposed the safety nets that was there for white people. That's why we are seeing this outburst of cries. We are seeing this outburst of people complaining about the living standards. They cannot afford food. They cannot live in their houses. People are sleeping in their cars. We are all seeing all these things happening. But remember, initially, when we try to compare demographically between white people and black people, or other minority groups, blacks, Latinos, Hispanics, Asians, all of those groups, when you try to compare them, you get to understand that there was so much problem in these communities, and this made white folks to think that poverty and problems only belong to black people. They didn't see their safety nets. They didn't see the meritocratic lie that they were given. They only saw the opportunity. And all this acted as a shock absorber for them because they had at least a leverage of, having all these systems getting to protect them. And while right now everything is being exposed, they are having the heat. They are getting to see the truth of how these things all are affecting them. And in real sense, you get to realize that no one is above this poverty line. Because get to understand that the United States is always fighting. The oligarchs are always fighting to maintain the top 1% and also maintain the bottom 99%. The America is really trying so hard to kill the middle class America, because the middle class America has so much power as compared to the bottom 99% and also as the top 1%. They have the power. They can control things because they understand how both sides feel. And so what you're seeing happening to majority of these white folks is something that should have been there before. It is just because they had those safety nets that helped them. And black people didn't have this because theirs had already broken. They didn't have the shock absorber. They didn't have this chance or the equal opportunity to do things that they did. Majority of these people today are complaining about the meritocratic lie that the United States lied to its own citizens. This is because initially you get to understand that the power structures that was there really ensured that the image that it created to the United States, it wanted the United States to look great. And indeed, the United States was great. But now we had this person that came into power that doesn't even care how people outside are seeing the United States. It doesn't care whether people trash it. It doesn't care whether the dollarization is happening. It doesn't care whether other people are forming other forms of currency. Mind you, the people that were there before, the administration that was there before, was really, understanding the magnitude and the gravity that this stuff holds. But for Mr. Donald Trump, honestly, it was only for the oligarchs. He serves the oligarchs and only for oligarchs. It's a one-man circus. And so when the safety nets were exposed, this really shows you how oligarchy worked. And everyone is crying. Even those who had the safety nets, everyone is crying. Everyone is complaining about the living standards. Almost everyone is complaining about how they cannot pay their rent. Almost everyone is complaining about their skipping meals. And almost everyone is complaining about their living in their cars. And it's getting crazy. Even white folks are fearing being deported. Yes. And so this all was just to expose the safety nets that was there. The safety nets that insulated all these white folks from all these problems that people of color are already going through. So for you to understand all these things that are going now, it's not that this suffering was not there. It was, and it has always been. But you understand the mainstream media. Since it was happening for the black people, it was something that was not to be had, or at least it didn't deserve airtime. But since it's happening to, all these people, it now deserves an airtime. And everyone needs to understand that white folks are going through it. And people are calling out Mr. Donald Trump for doing this. But of course, you are the ones who chose again Mr. Donald Trump. As the saying goes, you made the bed, you need to lie on it. Please let me know what you think about this video. I'm your host and presenter Agent Stories. If you're watching me for the first time, again, I'm just asking you to please subscribe to the channel, join the membership, and really get to see what I can offer you. But until then, peace, love, and harmony. Salute.